people are expecting. People are expecting quite a bit.
This is your time.
You want to win. You're going to be like this.
There are no shortcuts in life.
You'll get better because you make each other better.
The inches we need are everywhere around us.
I know plenty of people that are capable. I know fewer people that are willing.
You have to believe it to do it.
Now, what are you going to do?
Welcome in, everybody. You are listening to Sideline Sessions here on the B Podcast Network. Thanks, as always, for being with us. I'm pleased to be bringing you another conversation here about the sport of golf. We've talked about it a little bit before with Troy Basham, but here we'll really be digging into a lot of things in particular that are really useful for parents to understand about the sport, about how to get kids involved in it, about some of the opportunities that are involved as they move from the youth levels up even to college and beyond, and really getting a better understanding of what, what's involved in participating in this sport. So my guest is Lee-Anne Gilchrist. Lee-Anne is a motivator and educator who has worked with hundreds of athletes and their parents in the quest to athletic success in college and on professional golf tours. With a dream to create a unique environment for athletic development, Lee-Anne was a founding partner of 2 successful junior golf academies, and she is currently the CEO of the Golf Performance Center and Academy in Ridgefield, Connecticut, working with young people from all over the world to nurture intrinsic motivation and unlock human potential. Her daughter, Caitlin, is her greatest inspiration and her proudest accomplishment. Lee-Anne, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Ross. It's fantastic. Super excited to be with you today.
And this is a great one. I think it's a sport, there's a lot of people I'm sure out there like me who would be really interested in how to get their kids involved in it, right? And may not have had direct experience themselves. And also, as with everything, there's so much change over time as far as what are the types of opportunities to get involved. So let's start at the beginning. How do you get kids involved? How do you introduce kids to golf? Is there a general age range when it's most typical? Is there, what's the starting point?
Well, so with most sports, I think golf is very similar in that you want to just have kids have some fun with it, right? Experiment with it without any sort of stress or tension or pressure. It's just a lot of kids that get good at golf learned with their parents. They might have gone with their dad to the golf course, and I've heard this many times. They wanted to spend more time with the parent that played, so they went along to the golf course, right? So there are many roads that lead to Rome, so to speak. So there's just so many different ways. Some kids go with their friends to the golf course. A grandparent took them to the range. I think that in that very broad beginner kind of introductory to the game stage, it should just be very fun. And, so if you as a parent want to get your child into golf, my suggestion would be, take them to a range, try and, book a 9-hole round and just let them experience the golf course. And one of the traps I think we do fall into with golf is we don't play enough. There's a lot of like range practice type, activity without a lot of golf course activity. I would say go to the golf course as soon as possible, because that's really where you can fall in love with the game itself.
Yeah. Can anyone learn to be a golfer? I mean, not necessarily professional, but is there, are there certain kind of indicators
Sure.
of the overall potential? Do you just sort of know that once somebody starts playing the game, and what's their determination to keep improving? But it's kind of, it's unique in the sense that maybe there's a couple other sports that are similar, but certainly it's a lifelong game, right? People of all
Absolutely.
ages can play. You can play for leisure, for competition, etc. But yeah, how would you describe, right, it doesn't have to be that somebody's goal is to necessarily become pro, but maybe they're open to the possibility.
Yeah.
But can anyone basically learn the game and learn to have some success?
I would say absolutely. And I think it's one of the great things about the game of golf, to be honest. Yeah. It's a social game, but you can go and play on your own, right? So it's a lot more sort of open than a lot of other sports. As far as predictors, of course, there are some predictors to success in golf. It, maybe 50 years ago and onwards, it wasn't as physical, but in the last 20, 30 years, it's become an extremely a power sport, right? And very physical. So athleticism has always been a predictor for golf success, even though you didn't see it in sort of that muscular physique and the power game that you do today. But even those players of old that we look back on, right, they were very athletic. So I guess there were two questions there. Anyone can play, anyone can learn and get some value out of it, being outside, being in the fresh air, playing golf with your friends. I think from a business standpoint, it's very valuable. So there's so much value to golf. If you want to play competitively, it's an extremely challenging and mental game. So I think the predictors there would be grit, resilience, determination, basic athleticism and skill, and the ability just to stick with it when it gets hard. It's not an easy game.
Yeah, and I imagine even though it doesn't necessarily have a general reputation as a sport built on conditioning, right? But that flexibility and generalized kind of strength training, that's important to being able to perform at a high level, to stay healthy, avoid the injuries that come with any kind of physical activity, and thinking about the preparation that would go into being out there on the course and turning it into the kind of thing where that it's going to be a positive experience, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like you said, mobility, stability, those physical attributes are extremely important, because when I say that golf's become a power game, it's not how strong you are. If you watch, some players, they could look, pretty slim, or you wouldn't expect them to hit the ball as far as they hit it. But it's really about the energy, right, in the swing and the efficiency of the swing. And with the technology that we have today, like at GPC and at our academy, we have so much technology that we know exactly what's happening throughout the movement in the swing. It's called the kinematic sequence, right? And where you might be losing energy or leaking power, so to speak. So with the advances of technology, there are so many more enhancements to the game, even the ball, equipment, the ball, physical conditioning, all those things have just made it so much easier to hit it further and to become a power game for sure.
So let's basically spend, the majority of the rest of our conversation talking more in the context of young golfers who may want to participate competitively in some fashion, whether they're youth, high school, or looking at beyond. What are some of the kinds of opportunities that are available to young golfers today once they reach, whatever age, where they might start to get involved in some type of competition, be involved with some type of program, whether it's at a school or an academy? What are some of those opportunities?
So the great thing about golf in the US, we are the world's biggest golf market, followed by Japan. So we are the biggest market. There are so many opportunities for young golfers, aspiring golfers, which just makes, the access is obviously the key. And we're very fortunate in the US to have a lot of access. For younger kids that are in, elementary and middle school, their options are sort of the programs like a US Kids kind of program, where you can get equipment for younger kids. You've got a 3-year-old, right? You can get equipment for little kids now that is just great to get them, feeling the game and the movement of the game. So I think for younger kids, parents are going to need to be more involved. Take them to camps. There's camps all over the US. Starting with a summer camp, I always advise parents a summer camp is always just a fantastic experience and exposure to the game, right? Because they'll make friends. Maybe they go back the next year. They fall in love with the game because it's fun learning the new skills.
Right.
And it's just a good exposure away from mom and dad. I think summer camps are a really good starting point. When kids move into high school and even under high school, most states have some really good development tournaments. So most of my experience is in Florida, the Carolinas, and those areas, Georgia. There are tours all over the country, developmental tours that help kids go and learn how to compete. Like I mentioned to you earlier, the game is played on a golf course, but it's practiced on a range. And if they over practice and become, over analytical, then they might not have that instinct to just go play. So playing in tournaments early, I would say, would be some key advice. Just the social aspect, learning how to compete, learning the game in a tournament setting is just great experience. So then a junior would move through those tour stages. So you start with the developmental tours, there's private tours, state tours, then you'd start to play tours like the Hurricane Junior Tour, or there's just so many, the AJGA has a younger age group that's under 15s, and then they have their open tournaments. But you could move through, like MB3, for example, they're another great tour that's pretty national. You just move through the tours basically to see where you want to go with the game. Does that make sense? High school golf's also absolutely fantastic. I think high school golf has really done a lot to help get kids excited about playing golf and engaged. So I do encourage kids to play for their high schools, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think some of those aspects of the social element of it, right, for younger kids to see it as something they could be doing alongside some friends and making friends along the way, and playing in tournaments, it gives you, it kind of forces you in a position to take a variety of shots, I'm sure, right, to feel a little bit of pressure to just put it into practice. And like you say, there's, with the technology around training, with what training might look like, there's a time and place in preparation and training to evaluate and analyze your swing and what's working, what's not, and to try to get that right. But once you're out there on the course, you can't think. You have to just be able to have the repeatable skills, and sometimes forcing yourself into that position, because I'm sure there can be a perfectionist streak among a number of golfers to keep wanting to work to get it just right, and sometimes it's time to just get out there and perform. Are there, think about like motivation and motivators for a young golfer, and what might be unique in comparison to other types of sports and things? But I guess how a coach or a parent might go about motivating a golfer around their skill improvement, their training, etc.
It's a very interesting subject that could be a whole session on its own, is motivation. And I've kind of studied motivation as an amateur, not in the professional academic sense, but I'm really interested in motivation and what drives us, right? What drives us to do the things we do. And intrinsic motivation is really the way to go with anything, and so to the extent that a person is controlled, they're probably going to have less autonomy or less intrinsic motivation. So the encouragement really is to create an environment that's motivating and to tap into every child's sense of autonomy and sense of purpose and their sense of joy in whatever they're doing.
Mhm.
So I know that can sound a little bit, that could be frustrating for some parents, and they're like, no, but I want my child to play golf and I want them to be a good golfer, right? The external controls and the external motivation, it can get, it absolutely can get results, but whether that's, is gonna sustain, probably not. And there's a lot of research in the last, decades to support the theory, right?
Yeah.
So I think the big key, that's why when kids are new to golf, the concept is enjoyment, pleasure, fun. Let them have positive associations. If there's something, if they going to a coach that they don't like, or they getting if they exposed to something and it's negative, I would remove them from that environment, right? And don't keep forcing it. Just remove them from that and then try to associate it with enjoyment. Now, obviously, learning a new skill is hard, and perfecting a skill and mastery of a skill takes a long time. It takes effort. It's not fun. But if the internal drive and motivation isn't authentic to someone, then they're not going to do it anyway, ultimately. Right. Does that make sense? So when kids are young, let them play lots of sports. We're not fans of early specialization. There are some cultures that really hone in on specialization, and I think it's absolutely fantastic for kids to play multiple sports. It's great for their motor skills. It's good in every way. So yeah, that's kind of would be my advice. Let the child themselves be the sign for the motivation. Let them sort of lead that process. And of course we can help and we can support, but I would say by providing a motivating environment, that's the best way we could do it.
Yeah, and that intrinsic motivation piece that you reference is so powerful, and a lot of that just shows up by being in position to be in some sort of competition and learn through experience, that somebody who's going to ultimately be really interested in a particular sport or any endeavor is naturally going to feel motivated to keep getting better, to have better results, to, by winning, such as it is, right? That nobody else can really make you care about that. And ultimately, if they try to force you into it or pressure you to worry about winning and losing before you're ready, it's going to have the opposite effect, and it's going to say, well, then I don't really want to do it. Because and yeah, I think the experience can be so, again, it's not exclusive to golf, but the experience of being outside and the courses and just being able to perform well enough to have an opportunity to participate, right? Whether it's socially playing with friends or in some type of competition, to say, I want to be able to continue doing that. That means that I basically need to be able to play well enough to do so. And once I really feel like I'm getting better and better, then how much better can I get? What can I work on? Are there, for parents who are getting their kids, involved in golf, or their kids are starting to get involved, what should they be prepared for as far as what to expect regarding as a kid maybe moves up the levels, what type of commitment, what type of travel might be involved, or costs, or the things like that the parents should be planning for, and kind of getting an understanding of, okay, here's what it's going to look like as we move through this sport?
I mean, it's a time-consuming sport, obviously, because a round of golf takes, 4 to 5 hours, a competitive round, plus preparation, plus travel. Most junior events are fairly affordable. I would say entry fees, depending on the level of the tour, anywhere from, 100, 150 to 250, that sort of range. So there are, of course, costs involved. But again, I think all of this, like in the developmental stages when they're younger, fairly inexpensive unless you are joining a golf course. If you're not already a member of a course, most golf courses do have great junior membership rates. So that's fantastic. Even if mom and dad don't play, they could get their child a membership so that they can be out there practicing, playing. Great experience. So as a junior golfer gets older, it can be a pricey sport for sure. You want to approach tournaments very strategically, playing the right events to suit the child's game. I kind of support a 1/3 concept, which is, play a third of tournaments right in your level, play a third that are a stretch and are going to be difficult, and maybe some that are easy, right? So that you're mixing it up. You want to be challenged. You also want to build confidence by playing well and being able to win. And that can be expensive when you start getting competitive, for sure.
Is there a certain timing when a young golfer is sort of determining what their pathway may be? For example, for a place like Golf Performance Academy, right, where you are, is there a certain age or timing when a young golfer would be getting evaluated for their potential to go to an academy like that, to really be thinking about, okay, my goal is to play, to get a college scholarship or to compete maybe for a professional tour, versus I love playing the sport, I want to continue getting better, but it's going to be something that is maybe a little more recreational.
So golf is pretty special in this way, and it's a luxury because some other sports, you don't have this luxury, right? You've got a very narrow sort of trajectory, but with golf, it's a lot more flexible. There is a perfect sort of plan or trajectory, I would say, in that you are getting into the game in middle school, you're building up some skills. As a freshman in high school, you're starting to play some tours. By your junior year, you already kind of have an idea where you'd like to play college golf. You're competing in the AJGAs. Hopefully, you're getting invited to AJGA invitationals. You sign for college the summer of your rising senior year, and that's sort of the perfect trajectory. The reality is it doesn't work like that a lot of the time. A lot of kids come to golf late, but they're talented, they athletically talented. Their skill acquisition may be a little on the low side, and they're building on some skills. So it's so individual. I have known, I've helped hundreds of kids get into college golf, right? And I can just regale you with story after story of different situations. Kids that came to the game really late, they might have played at a junior college, played really well, transferred into a D2 and went on to be a pro. You can look at all the guys on the PGA Tour today, and some of them play D3 golf, right? It's so individualized based on your current, your ability, your athletic ability, your mindset, your mental, and your goals, what you really want. And then the drive and the motivation and the work ethic, and those are the things that you build on to get to your goals. So it's an imperfect journey, which is a beautiful thing. But I think the people that have been most successful, in my experience, I've been so fortunate to, guys like Morgan Hoffman, like Shen Feng, Yanni Tseng. I've been around them as they developed, and the common denominator is just a lot of skill and talent, a lot of hard work, pretty mentally aligned, knew what they wanted, just went after it, and very motivated. There are predictors like that.
What's the scholarship environment like at the U.S. colleges and universities? Is or like, yeah, what types of schools offer golf scholarships? Relatively, what's available?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2,000 golf programs, right? So there is a lot of opportunity in college golf. We have D1, the NCAA Division 1, 2, and 3. There's NAIA, which is their own organization, and then junior college. So I think anybody who wants to play college golf, almost anyone who really aspires to play college golf, pretty much can. You know, if you shooting in the range for D1, for top level D1 is under par scratch players, right? And then it goes up from there. So if you really have that goal and that desire, I think there is a program for anyone. You know, there are a lot of factors. There's academic factors, there's budget factors. Scholarships are not as easy as they used to be because there's a lot more kids playing golf. It's very competitive.
Right.
So, you know, getting a full scholarship, those are very, very hard to come by.
Yeah.
Not easy, but having the opportunity maybe with a smaller scholarship in year one and working your way up and proving yourself to the coach, that's just a very, very doable and realistic goal.
Are there, like, so in the junior golf development world, are there particular challenges that are kind of more significant in the, that you're facing today with the, in that junior development area?
Definitely. So there's two ways to look at this. And when I look at anything, I look at the strategy part of it, sort of the practical part of it, and then the psychological part of it. So just practically speaking, I would say junior golf development in the US is very fragmented. So the USGA did start their national team and their US development program, but it's only for a handful of young people. And so that doesn't really help us as, a whole.
Right.
I think there's a lot of good people out in the golf world that are trying to pull something together, but it hasn't really happened. So I think it is an area that needs a lot of attention. Some of the best minds in junior golf should come together and say, okay, how can we address this situation? So on that side, we're not doing that well, I would say, with junior development. We could be doing a lot better. On the soft side or the psychological side, I think this is where we really need parents to step up and do a much better job. In the world today, in this generation with Gen Z, our kids are the most anxious, the most depressed, the most suicidal generation to date, right? So those are real things. That real situation that we faced with is probably because of technology. Technology plays a big factor in isolation of our youth. And I think parents almost don't know how to deal with some of this. And so if our first line of defense would be at home, right? I think parents, instead of asking their kids, why are you so lazy? Or why don't you work harder? Or why did you 3-putt on that hole, right? Parents need to learn how to shift their paradigm as a parent, right? And at home, right? At home, we should create the conditions that will motivate and inspire our kids to be their very best. Because in my experience, that's where things really do break down, is in the home unit with parents. It's the pressure, the negativity, the unrealistic expectations, not understanding the personality of their child, right? If you've got a high-powered type A parent with an introverted, sort of gentle child, can you imagine that communication and the miscommunication? And young kids don't know how to articulate how they're feeling. So it just sort of gets bottled up or whatever. And then what will more than likely happen is they give up golf, or, worse, who knows what could happen.
Yeah.
So So while we are working on a development program, us here at the Golf Performance Center and Golf Performance Academy, we have PDI, and I don't even know if we've talked about PDI, but the Player Development Index. And we're hoping to get PDI into everyone's hands because it's just a tool to help manage your development. And if kids know, they might shoot high scores, but if they don't really understand how to get better and the reasons why that's happening,
Yeah.
it can be very demotivating. And then, of course, the parents don't help, right? I would love to do more parent seminars, parent education, and really focus on that aspect of this industry.
Yeah. If you had a magic wand and you were in control of all youth golf development nationwide, what's the first thing you would do? Is it get everybody to PDI? Is it one of the other things you've referenced?
I think PDI is great just because for 20 years, I never had a tool like this, right? If I went back to think of all the athletes we've worked with in the past, I don't have one place where all their information is. And what PDI does is it measures the physical, the mental, the golf skills and golf scores, puts it all together and tracks development over time. So a fantastic tool. It doesn't matter if it's PDI or something else. I'm definitely not saying, okay, this is the be all and end all, right? What I'm saying is we should all come together with a common goal, not promoting self-interest, but a common goal to say, okay, we're a massive country with a lot of private business enterprise. How can we all do the right thing to help this next generation? And together with that would be a big piece of helping parents of athletes just do a better job, parenting their kids or raising them the right way when it comes to sport.
Yeah. So Lee-Anne, you shared a lot of valuable things here for listeners to be thinking about, looking into different parts of this journey. Do you have sort of a final takeaway for listeners, in particular, I think our parent listeners, but it could apply to coaches as well, about just, some advice on supporting your child in success as they get involved in athletics and what you've seen a lot of it over the years, right? And been involved in it. And if you're really excited about what potential there is in sports, right? And all the opportunities that can open up. Yeah. What are some, final tips to just be supportive of that journey?
Sure. So I think it's very difficult for parents to multitask and be coach, a mental coach, physical coach, and parent. So I would encourage parents to embrace the role of a parent and then hire a coach and trust the professionals in those areas. So don't try to then either contradict the professional or because what that does, it just causes confusion, right, for the athlete. We kind of, you want to be aligned. You want to be a team. So there's no sort of conflict there with bias. So that would be, I would say try to parent. And as a parent, it's conditional love, understanding, acceptance of your child. Try to see their uniqueness and accept it. And then as far as some practical things that parents can actually do, like talking conceptually is one thing, but to go out and do is I would encourage every parent to read the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's an absolute tenet of our business and of our approach to player development and a human potential, unlocking human potential. Because there are two basic mindsets. I don't know how much you know about the book, Ross, but if you haven't, okay, good. Yeah. Because you can see when young people have a growth mindset and things are difficult and they push through, right? And they embrace the challenge versus avoiding the difficult things and just trying to prove how good they are. When you start seeing that happening in a young person, that's a red flag for a parent to say, okay, what can I do to really nurture and encourage a growth mindset in my child?
Yeah.
And it's the questions we ask them. When they finish a round of golf or any type of sport activity, it's the questions that are curious, that promote self-awareness, that promote learning, not negativity or criticism, right?
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not easy to do, especially for parents that are high-powered executives or that have performed at a high level themselves. It's a whole new set of skills that they need to learn and embrace.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, a lot there to think about. If you're listening, we'll also put some links below to the Golf Performance Academy, golfpdi.com, some resources you might want to check out. Maybe, if you already have a young golfer in your care, or if you're interested in learning more about that, a lot there. Lee-Anne, anything else in particular that you'd recommend listeners check out?
Wow. I would check out your local area, your state, and just look for the tours, like we said. Find a good coach that can help with the instruction, because learning the skill is obviously extremely important, but we want that to be a fun and exciting, a journey, not a negative journey. So find a good coach, keep encouraging them. And like I said, start competing, get them competing early. I think that's a great way to fall in love with the game.
Right. Yeah. So listeners, try those things. Check it out. If you're interested in the sport of golf, a lot there. Again, we'll put those links below to make it easy for you to find some of those resources. And then there's others you can look for locally and in your local area. Please do also subscribe to Sideline Sessions if you haven't already. We're going to continue to bring you insights from diverse coaches, stakeholders, others involved in sports, kind of across the sporting landscape here. A lot of different ideas for supporting the young athletes in your life. Lee-Anne, thanks again for being here.
Thanks so much, Ross. Take care.